Good morning, everyone from 11 degrees Dublin in summer. This is Nico, your Vice Chair of the European branch of the IIRSM. Welcome in this beautiful morning in Europe, and here it's still raining. Anyways, today we have a big webinar for you. We have asked Darren Thomas, the Corporate Engagement Manager of the IIRSM, to do a presentation to all of you that work in companies that are members of the IIRSM, companies that are thinking, and organizations that are thinking to join the IIRSM European branch. And we have a case study. Daryl Wake, he is the Director of Business Development in DECRA. He will be telling us his experience as a corporate member of the IIRSM. As always, I do my quick few slides to tell everyone this is our membership footprint in Europe. We are always trying to grow. We're trying to engage new members, new volunteers. So please, if you want, get in touch through LinkedIn, through the email, through Julie Littlejohn, which is in the controls right now and behind, and the membership team. These are your members for the European Committee. We are based all around Europe, and we're trying to grow up the membership base. That is our objective, to engage more European members, to have more European discussions in the IIRSM. And yes, try to give that area for the expats working all over Europe, and those nationals as well, to have a forum to speak about risk safety management. Be part of our LinkedIn community. Just scan that and it will bring you straight away to our page, and there you can start interacting. Just wanted to tell you, next webinar will be the Wednesday, 8th of July. You know that usually we run them on Thursdays, but this time will be on a Wednesday because the speaker can do it that time. It will also be 11 Central European time, 10 GMT, because she also can do it at that time. So Wednesday, 8th of July, that will be our last webinar, our next webinar, and then we cut for the summer, and next time is in September. Now, without further ado, let me pass to Darren Thomas, Corporate Engagement Manager from the IIRSM. The stage is yours, Darren.
Okay, if you could, you stop sharing, that's fine.
Need some help.
Thank you. Is that okay? Can we see? Let me get to my first slide. Can we see that?
Yes, you just need to pop it into presenter mode.
Ah, yes.
That's correct.
Yes. Thank you, Julie. We would be lost without you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Darren. I'm the Corporate Engagement Manager for IIRSM. I've been working at the organisation since October 2024. So I'm relatively new to health and safety risk management. But before that, I worked for a number of different trade organisations, membership bodies. So yeah, I do know a little bit about corporate partnerships, and that's the key word, partnerships. I really hope that the one thing you take away from this presentation this morning is that partnership word. We're an educational charity, as you know. We really rely on our individual members and our corporate partners, the existing ones, and all the help they can give us. And this really is an opportunity to gain some knowledge for your organisation if you consider joining us. We're very well established, over 50 years now, so some credibility and some connections within our network, within our community. Nearly 45,000 followers on social media, 8,000 members across 90 countries. This could be a partnership that could really springboard your organization's knowledge around risk management. So how could it benefit your organization, a corporate membership? It's really about this sort of building authority and some trust. Just let people know, your clients, your partners, regulators, that you're working with an internationally known organization to try and reach world-class risk management. There's obviously lots of steps to get there, but to be seen as an organization working alongside us as a partner, it just builds that trust. And come along to our events, come to the branch meetings, come to meet us there. We were in Berlin a couple of weeks ago. We look to go to more events. Advise us which events in Europe could we come to? Could we come and meet you? Could we hold an event at? And also get involved in our publications, sharing your knowledge. Raise your profile as a brand. Feature it at our events, so that we've got webinars. You can come and speak, share your knowledge, and across just all of the IIRSM channels. We are a global audience of risk management professionals, and we'd love to get more organizations, companies involved in our community. And there's opportunities to sponsor events. We really rely on the content that's generated by our community, some of our best case studies, some of our articles, and it's all about sharing that knowledge so that all of us can benefit. It might be from a different sector, but there's always takeaways that we can use within our own organizations, and that's only strengthened by having new companies, new organizations joining us. And develop your teams. Your teams might be health and safety professionals, but it can be so in liberating, learning more about risks, stepping outside of just looking at health and safety. But what about supply chain risks? What about environmental risks? Taking a step back, we've got expert-led webinars and in-house development programs. We can tailor training programs for your organization. We do a super introduction training course called Managing Risks, the Essentials. It's an online course, takes 5 learning hours, and there are some tremendous outcomes that participants can go away with. We had Gemma, who's one of our members, who works in the health service in the UK. This was her quote: "I found Managing Risks, the Essentials really useful. I've taken away several ideas discussed with my line manager regarding our internal risk training that we provide for managers, in the hope that we can improve and provide the best training and knowledge for our staff." We're also have launched recently a new organizational risk map, which has been developed by our ambassadors. People who've been in the sector a long time. And this organizational risk map can be used by any organization in different sectors. And it's a really great way of mitigating some of the risks that might be there for your organization by planning out, using the risk map to work out what areas are potentially of risk and how things that you can do to mitigate that risk, and put in procedures you can put in place to make sure accidents don't happen. And also, we're bringing online next month a new e-learning platform, which you'd be able to access. People can access at any time, working with a range of approved training providers. And that is definitely going to be a growing area for us. Like I've said, there's so many tools and insights. There's a member resource area of our website where you can actually tailor which sort of articles you want to be saved into your resource area. Stay informed with our newsletters. We have the Sentinel magazine, which is published 6 times a year, which is seen as a key benefit. Provide some content for that magazine, and tap into the knowledge that you can immediately apply to your business. It's really a great opportunity as well when you get involved and you come to the branch meetings, you come to events, is to network with professional right across the globe. Build your own personal brand. We're hoping to organise another conference in the Middle East in 2027. Obviously, the geopolitical situation there at the moment makes that very difficult, but we hope that will quieten down. And we had a very successful Middle East conference in 2026, and Daryl will be able to tell you about past Middle East conferences when he speaks a bit later. And and try and come along to our annual Forum and Risk Excellence Awards. It's in the UK, but we will live stream again, and it will be in May next year. And particularly the Risk Excellence Awards really are growing in stature in the sector. I was only speaking yesterday to somebody from Saudi Railways who had won the Risk Team of the Year award, and they were still buzzing from having that award. So please think about entering the awards. Think about coming along, getting involved. So really, this is what you get. As I said previously, each nominated staff member of a corporate membership package would get the opportunity to join the development webinars, discounts on training and events, career growth through mentoring. We have a new mentoring platform that we've launched. Again, all about this community idea. Get involved. Get your team members involved. Join as a corporate. Put your company alongside IIRSM. Help us grow the knowledge of risk management across the globe. Help us develop it and help everyone's members of staff to be safer and be able to return to their families at the end of the day. And this is what a corporate membership could give you: a stronger reputation, better equipped teams, potentially more engaged teams, learning about more about the organization they work in by taking a step back and a wider view of the risks that are there, and opportunities to connect, volunteer, and just grow on the global stage. Thanks very much for your time, and I'm going to hand over to Daryl now. Daryl is a great guy to have involved on this webinar. He's been involved with IIRSM since 2014 in various different ways, and as you'll see as he runs through his presentation, DECRA are now very much a partner and working with us on a regular basis as a gold partner. So thank you very much, and I'll stop sharing now and look to pass over to Daryl.
Darren, let me interject there. I just forgot to tell to everyone, please put your questions to the Q&A section, or if you want to speak later with the speakers, you can also do so by raising your hand. We will unmute you, and then you can make the questions directly. Thank you, Darren, for that. I have already a couple of questions for you, and then Daryl, the stage is all yours.
Okay, thanks, Nico, and thank you to Darren. Can people see my screen?
Not yet. Not yet. Oh, now it's happening something.
Can you see that now?
I personally cannot.
It's just taking a second to share. It can take a moment.
Hang on, I'll do it once again, Julie.
Okay. It's trying to start, that's for sure.
It's saying your screen sharing.
Now, yes. Now, yes.
You can see that. Okay,
yes.
so
a building.
You can, yes. Okay, thanks, Nico. All right, so hello everyone. As Darren said, my name is Daryl Wake. I'm probably the only Australian on this webinar today as well. So just quickly, so I'll get more into my relationship and personally, and also from a DECRA corporate point of view, the relationship with IIRSM and DECRA over many years now. But so a bit about me, my background. I was originally a farmer's son back in Australia. Didn't want to be a farmer, much to the disappointment of my dad. So I joined the Australian Navy. I was basically an air traffic controller on warships for, nearly 10 years. And then I joined what's referred to as now the world's largest diversified resource business in BHP. It was BHP Billiton Mac in my day. So I started as an operational person into a shift supervisor's role quite expeditiously. And then I digressed, like a lot of you, into a risk and safety professional for many years. So I've worked in not only military, mining, minerals processing, exploration and oil and gas personally. And then I headed off to the Middle East in about 2014, and that was around the time I came across a business that was called BST, or Behavioural Science Technology, who DECRA acquired the same year. And so I was a principal consultant, client partner for nearly 10 years, and I've digressed into business development over the last 3 years. I've now been in this role. So, right. Hopefully, Nico, can you confirm my screen has moved on, please?
Your screen has moved on. IIRSM by DECRA partnership and synergies. It's all
100%.
good.
Brilliant. Okay, so here I was a risk and safety professional working for this company called DECRA, and I wanted to connect with other like-minded people because I was relatively new to the Middle East. So I did hear there was this association organisation called IIRSM, and I went to a meeting. It was right down the back end of Jebel Ali, so right down the southern part of Dubai. I remember it was a very industrial area. There wasn't much going on, but there was a building that was called Pro Clad, and they were a cladding building. And basically, I went into there. It was a double R, no dissimilar to probably the amount of people that are on the call today. There was 9 people at this IIRSM meeting down the back end of a dark alley, the middle of nowhere. And the chairman at the time was a gentleman, and he's still associated heavily with IIRSM today. His name, and some of you might have heard of him, Matt Cox. And Frank Higgins was the vice chairman. And I think there was probably 9 people at this meeting. Anyway, after the meeting, I got chatting with Matt, et cetera, and I said, what sort of other support? Do you have a committee? All this sort of stuff. And he said, well, if it wasn't for me and Frank, basically nothing would happen. So wind the clock forward, probably might have been 6 months later. There was some elections. Matt said, why don't you go in as the secretary? So I became, and back in those days, I know that there's 4 active branches out in the Middle East region. So we were IIRSM Middle East. Then we digressed because a branch had opened up in Qatar as well. And I was the secretary for nearly 3 years. Now, to leverage something that Darren said earlier, we grew that particular branch, and I'm not saying it was me. I was heavily involved as well, doing most of the admin sort of and organisation of meetings. And then we got to a point where I think when we started there was probably 200 members at IIRSM. I was in that position for 3 years. So back to what Darren said, we actually held an event. We called it the IIRSM Middle East Symposium. There was 250 people at that particular event. We got sponsors, including DECRA. I spoke on behalf of not only IIRSM, but also DECRA. There's 250 people there. I clearly remember, and it was really nice. So I got in, fortunately being a corporate partner, got invited to the IIRSM Forum and Safety Awards only a couple of weeks ago, as Darren outlined before. We had my last meeting, and there was two former, well, still current branch members at the Forum and Safety Awards. We had 150 people that turned up to the last branch meeting that I held. And I think the last records, I still have them somewhere. I reckon it was less than 200 members we had out there. When I left, there was 750. Anyway, so that's a bit about me. And DECRA, basically, back in the days, it's changed a bit since, particularly since Darren's been on board. But we've actually been a corporate partner in some way, shape or form since about 2016. So I've spoken at webinars or events in the Qatar branch, Riyadh branch not so long ago. Also last year, I believe, it was the Irish branch as well. So we have contributed quite a bit, and we're a globally recognised safety consultancy firm. In fact, we're a safety company. So we're now, to give you some insights, at DECRA. DECRA is actually an acronym for the Deutschland, or German Motor Vehicle Testing and Inspection Association. So last year, that's how we started life 100 years ago. But we've morphed into a big business. So yes, we do testing, inspection, certification, not only in automotive, but across across industry. We're into cybersecurity, sustainability, whatever's connected to being our global vision, which is the partner for a safer, secure, and sustainable planet. We pretty much do everything. So I work in one little bespoke business unit within DECRA, and that's strategic safety consultancy. So we do a lot of work around cultural diagnostics, culture transformation, leadership development, behavioural safety sciences. We were the pioneering company in serious injury and fatality prevention. And some of the newer stuff that we do is quite exciting, actually, is around brain-centric reliability. So what happens in people's heads, why we make, sometimes safe or good decisions, and at time we make at-risk and perhaps even poor choices as well. So it's all the stuff that happens around brain functioning. So yes, we're a not-for-profit. We are here to make money at the end of the day, but a nice part about DECRA, I think, is that all the profit that we generate and or make, it goes back into research and development. Can we come up with new ideas? As an example, in Germany, we have a racing track and it's fully committed to autonomous driving. It's the largest one on the planet. Or we acquire other businesses to share that love, spread our word across the industry, across the planet. So, and part of that, and particularly I'm speaking on behalf of my business unit, is, we've got resource hubs where you can download things if you want any information around, culture, leadership, behaviour, serious injury and fatality prevention. A new piece of work that we're doing is around those relationships with contractors, how we manage our contractors as well. So there's some technical white papers. They're all available. They're all free of charge. They're on the internet. If you like, I can share that after the call. But that's giving you some insights. And now we're a corporate partner once again with IIRSM. So that's a bit about me and a bit about DECRA. So what I thought when I was initially talking with John, who's the vice president of IIRSM at the moment, take over from Rosie shortly, and also Darren, is the role of the HSE professional and or risk professional, and sort of give you some insights, particularly from our point of view, might be your own point of view about what is our role and what is the impact and considerations around some key focal areas that, as a risk or safety professional, you should think of. Perhaps you've already thought of this, or perhaps there's some stuff that you think, I can take some of that and perhaps I can fine-tune my approach as well. So where I want to start is this here. Now, from my experience being in industry myself, being a risk and safety professional, helping companies as well on their journey to a better place or to world-class, typically within organizations, that sort of personnel, perhaps it's you on the webinar today, we see these folks typically, or the company does, in three different ways. Now, I've got a bit of narrative here that supports just these few bullet points on the screen here. So the first one typically is that administrative sort of type of person. So these are those folks that typically they don't see daylight too often. They're strapped or chained to their chair within the office, and a lot of times with their fellow, risk and safety professionals. We see these people as their primary function is to perhaps, rewrite the procedures as they become out of date. They're no longer fit for purpose, or perhaps something bad has happened in the company. So, accidents, incidents, near misses. So they add a few more pages to perhaps close some of those gaps. They take the data, they do the pretty dashboards, they do the pretty graphs, and they'll do this a lot of times for many meetings that they won't attend. And for those that won't, they'll basically provide that information for others to refer to at any point in time. They typically tell safety from a difference of how things should be done, but they have very little opportunity to monitor the outcome of their endeavours. The majority of this is done through communications via emails, because the company expects them, they can't get away from it long enough a lot of times to actually take the conversation in the field when and where it's required. Why? Because they've got all this administrative task that's been faced with them. So that's the first one. Now, I'm not saying any of this is right or wrong, but typically this is how we see the administrative role when we think of the HSE professionals. The second one is the policeman. So it's a different variation from the former, whether it's chosen or whether it's part of what the company expects them to do. They typically, they make an appearance when something bad has happened in the company, or perhaps we can't make things good here. Their role: investigate what's occurred, possibly sometimes apportion blame. Human error a lot of times comes out, rather than identifying the most root cause of that area and or issue. It's not laziness, it's not malice, but perhaps with lack of understanding that there's an alternative set of behaviours that could produce better outcomes, or the company pressures are simply too much for them. This is what we expect you to do. And I only had a phone call this morning, a meeting this morning about this subject matter myself, is that's what we expect them to do. This also, it inhabits the culture's ability to learn a lot, not only because information isn't volunteered, but when there are incidents, the root cause is fully not established a lot of times. And it's like treating the symptoms. The old analogy, I think, came from James Reason is, you're better off to drain the swamps where the mosquitoes actually breed, rather than swatting those mosquitoes once a time. So, when we think of people, and again, it might be part of the time, it could be a lot of their time, you get short-term results, but those symptoms just keep reappearing. So that's the second one. And I have some questions and perhaps points of view of why those types of perceptions can arise within organisations. And then the third one is the change agent. So this is where we partner. It's a partnering function within the company, and we're available to the workforce at all times, 24/7, 365. They don't do safety from a distance, but they're connected, they're engaged, they inform, they invite, they empower people. The line is there to own safety, and we do that with a synergized approach, particularly with leadership. So these people are typically about understanding the why. The conversation this morning was about poking holes and fingers at people, and I asked the question, why does someone want to work at risk? They're available, they're visible, they use methodologies to make this possible, even though they may be, and a lot of times with a lot of companies, the HSE team is very thin on the ground as well, or perhaps thin in corporate. They understand their role as advisors and the importance of information for a safe culture. I'll get on to more about that in a moment. They guide the company in understanding the company about being informed, and that bad news is actually good news. And information only has its value in the application in field where people go out and go to work. At every opportunity, they'll look to learn from errors and mistakes and incidents, with a view to prevent it from repeating and never seeing these incidents ever again. These people are typically our coaches, our mentors, our educators. So that's where I wanted to stay. And sometimes, as I said before, there is some very valid reasons why there might be multiple hats. And a lot of times there is multiple hats that us as risk and safety professionals have to wear at some stage. But where we want to be seen in the business is quite obviously we're the coaches, mentors, and guides within the organisation. So that's a bit of a starting point around. Typically, this is how industry sees us people as risk and safety professionals. Okay, like at many different consultancy firms, we work very closely because our work is typically centred around high risk businesses. So we're talking not only my background, mining, minerals processing, oil and gas, petrochemicals, pharmaceutical, utilities, etc. So we work very closely with our process safety colleagues. So we needed a model to actually come together to actually share with our clients. So there was an iteration before, it was called the Blueprint for Safety Transformation. More recently, we refer to this as the safety ecosystem. So So where I want to connect the dots here is around, and when I talk to senior leaders, as per the conversation I had this morning with this client of ours, is all around here. So at the working interface, when good folks and people have the best intentions when they go to work, you know, what we want to see is at the working interface, we want to see a safe working environment. We want to see safe behaviours. We want to see reliability, not only in what we do as an organisation, whether it's in construction, we build stuff, petrochemicals, we manufacture chemicals, etc., etc. We want to see high reliability in people's behaviours. We want to see good efficiencies, and we want to see high quality in the products, the services, or whatever we manufacture or produce or do at the end of the day. The conversation this morning, and a lot of times that I have with senior leaders, is, do you have this 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And I think for 99.9% of the discussions I have, the answer is we're not bad, but no, we don't have that. So we have to have a look at what can influence whether we do or don't get that. Now, on the left-hand side, this is where a lot of us, and I'm sharing my own background as well, we spend a hell of a lot of time on what we call the enabling systems. Excuse me. So this is typically the health and safety standards and systems that we have, so that and perhaps even operational standards, policies and procedures, that when people do go to work, they do it so that you get this here, the working interface. So what's in there? It can be our risk management processes. So how we identify, assess and control risks and exposures in the business. It can be our learning and development processes, you know, inductions. How do we train people? How do we educate folks? How do we coach them, et cetera, et cetera? It can be things like our standard operation procedures, our work instructions, our checklists, et cetera, et cetera. And other more benign things like, you know, how do we design out risk and exposures? It could be equipment safeguarding. It can be more benign things like PPE as well. So these things definitely help us. They definitely help us. But as you can see with the model, if some other things, which I'll cover in a moment, don't actually support these things, we're not going to get to our vision or our journey or our strategy. It's going to hold us back somewhat. So that's the safety enabling system. So in the first instance, it makes this stuff happen in the first instance, but it doesn't hold it there. Now, if I transfer over to the right-hand side, we call it the sustaining system. So this is some of the stuff that keeps those safety management systems in place. It's typically the human resources and people systems and processes. So it can be, what are the human resources and people systems that we actually utilize? As an example, how do we select and develop people for that particular role? Now what I see a lot, and you probably see this in your businesses, is a line supervisor decide, right, that's it, my day's up, I'm going to retire, right? Now, a lot of times what we do is we look around the facility, the company, and say, right, there's this guy, Daryl. He's a good lead operator. He's been there for, you know, that rite of passage, 7 to 10 years. And you think, and Daryl's that sort of person where when there's trouble afoot, Daryl knows how to get the plant or the process back up and running quicker than everyone else. So we go out and we appoint Daryl to that supervisor's role. Now, there's a big connection between IQ and EQ, right? So Daryl technically is very, very solid. But when he comes to managing and leading people, what is he like? Because there's a big difference there. Now, what we see a lot, it's that whole battle between IQ and EQ. And a lot of times we appoint these people and they're not very good sometimes at leading people. And it creates a horrible mess as well. It can be things like, what's your structure like? Now, to give you an example, from a HSC professional point of view, I was talking to a senior vice president for a massive ground handling business. Now, this individual had 4,500 people. I was speaking to him and with him about, share your safety performance. What is it like? And he said, yeah, it's not too good. I said, well, what does not too good mean? And he said, well, on average, I have between 8 to 12, recordable injuries every month, but most specifically lost time injuries with hospitalisation. I said, yeah, that doesn't sound very good to me. That's a whole lot of damage to people you're doing. So my next question was, how many safety and risk professionals do you have? And he said, one. And I said to this individual, I said, would you mind if I speak to this person? He said, yeah, absolutely. So I met this individual. Now, don't forget, he appointed this individual to that role. This individual had no idea what world-class safety performance could have looked like. This individual was focusing on this area here and perhaps not so much these other areas over here. So it wasn't helping. The structure in his business at that time was not helping him. It can be other things like, what do we reward and recognize in the business, and how do we keep people accountable for whatever it is we have to do around managing risk and safety in the business. What we see a lot, organizations, they think, right, the way that we will improve safety performance is to incentivize, all right? So through the formal bonus system, we'll incentivize something like lost time injury. Now, what that does, great intentions again, good intentions, solid sound intentions. But we do this for a business. We use a lot of science and psychology to measure culture. There was one organization that we actually measured their culture, not once and not twice. Now, after the first time we measure one scale, and it's called incident injury reporting. Do people report when they're bloodied, broken, and bruised? And this scale, the first time we measured, was extremely low. And we understood why. There was a negative consequence which had a financial impact on every individual in the business if anybody had a lost time injury. Now, this particular organization, they actually had a lot of, they were in fuel retail stations. They had hundreds and hundreds of them across this nation. So what I told the CEO, I said, I could be the safest worker up at this part of the nation and a worker down, and a great operator. I'm always timely, I'm engaged, I report, I do everything, and I'm very great with customers. But 200 kilometers in the south of the nation, you could have someone that's completely different. They're always at risk, they're not timely, they don't like the company, etc., and they have a lost time injury. So I said, the process, you've done it for the right reasons, but it's actually working against you. So we can do it well, particularly if it's based on critical safety activities and it's based on exposure and it's within my control at my level to undertake something, then you'll be successful. So that's the sustaining systems over here. And then the last part is of course leadership. Now, the higher up you go, the more power and influence you have across the whole of the organization. And then so what we say is leaders create culture, and we talk about this thing called create a culture of care, right? Now, we see this culture of care through three different lenses. The biggest one is care for people. Now, if people in the company don't feel cared for by my supervisor, my managers, it's going to be very difficult for them to care for your processes and systems and your plant and equipment. If people do feel cared for, the number one thing that will happen is there's this law of, reciprocation. You will get it back. So they will care for you. But we've got more likelihood that if people feel cared for, they'll care for your processes and systems. They'll care for your plant and equipment. So us as risk and safety professionals, what we find a lot, we do spend a lot of time on this. Safety management systems, get the risk assessments in place. What we find is a lot of time when safety professionals help the organization understand this, when we help them to coach and mentor leaders at every level, particularly starting with the top, then we find that most organizations are a lot more successful and you are more likely to see this within your organization. Nico, did you have your hand up?
You're right. Sorry, it was not meant to be. You have 10 minutes still left, yeah, for the webinar?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. So that's the first one there. This is how we see it all coming together. So as I said previously, we were the pioneering company in 2008. And what we actually saw as an organization is the non-fatal trends. Okay, so this, call it your lost time injury frequency rate. Up until that point, there was a nice downward trend in non-fatal rates. And this was over multiple nations, including across Europe as well. When we looked at the fatal rate over the same period of time, that was pretty much flat. In some instances, it's actually getting worse. So what we did, we took a group of 7 large organizations. My old business, BHP Billiton, was one of those. And we looked at Heinrich's safety triangle. And of course, I know I'm talking to risk and safety professionals here today. They brought together 1,028 incident accident report forms. And this work study group led by us asked 2 simple questions. When we look at Heinrich's safety triangle, now Heinrich back in 1932, he was a statistician, the research and the numbers that he did, on average, there's about 300 of these. So lower level injuries, near misses and hazards for 30 recordables, lost time injuries for every 1 fatality. So the first question we asked this work study group was, does this describe what's going on when we look at this 1,028 incident accident report forms? And the answer to that was yes. And we do have the numbers. So I have those numbers. I haven't got it here today. Okay, good. Park that up. The second question, is it predictive? Is it predictive? So what we thought about, the paradigm for many years is, if we chip away at the bottom, the numbers at the top should reduce. So does it predict what's going to happen? And the answer to that was no, it does not. So what we found, and that's indicated by this, we call it the triangle within the triangle, right? So we call this your SIF exposure potential. Now, for these incidents to take place, 3 things must happen. 1, high risk activity. Sitting at a desk, typically walking at ground surface, will never, ever end up here, credibly. The second thing, there is problems with your safety management systems. They're either not there, they're not very good, or for whatever reason, somebody chose not to follow that procedure. So that's the second thing. The third thing is, they've been there since you started operating, all right? So they've been allowed to continue. So this is where it comes down to leadership and culture are at play, all right? Now, the baseline, we've now done 3 work study groups. When we started, it was 21%. So one across industry, 1 in every, 1 in every 5 incidents that typically get recorded. There's a whole lot of luck going on, all right? The second one that we've done is 25%. So that's telling us nearly 1 in every 4. We did some work here. It hasn't been published. You're hearing it from me. This is looking like it might be 1 in every 3 events. So we think it's now about 33% across industry as well. My take home here as a risk and safety professional, if you look here, the light green area, let's say it's a lost time injury. Daryl's, picked up something in the plant. He's picked up, a big box of something, and he sprained his back and he's off work for 7 days. Now that's bad. Don't forget about it. But it will never, ever incredibly end up here. And we spend as safety professionals, we spend all this time and noise on that. But we'll have a near miss where Daryl fell backwards at 1.2 meters. He got a bruised backside and he just went back to work. And he recorded it, and not much is done about it, okay? These incidents here needs full attention, okay? This is where you're going to spend your time, or should be spending your time. This incident here, soft muscle tissue injuries, do a quick 5 whys, couple of corrective actions and move on. This one, you need to go deep and wide with your investigations, and senior leadership needs to get a bit interested and disturbed around that. Now, I can talk a lot. So what I'm saying, and so this is our model. Again, nearly 50 years worth of research. As a risk and safety professional, we believe that you are leaders. Now, you might have the title of a leader, supervisor, manager, VP, whatever it is. But even as a safety professional, you lead people in an indirect way. So what we say is, I have my own personal safety ethics that I bring to the table, whether I care, whether I have a positive or negative impact, whether I take responsibility, have I got high levels of EQ, etc., etc. So everyone's on a bit of journey, but we know you can change that, and you can change that in other people as well, particularly levels of leadership. Now, what's that connected to? How do I lead? Am I inspirational? Do I influence people for the better? Do I challenge folks? Look outside of the box. We've always done this particular. Working from trucks is a classic example. It's working at heights. People need to get up on the tray. Is there not a better way and safer way we can do this? And then engaging is the last one. So this is spending time with people, coaching, mentoring, making things better individually for people in your business. Now, what the other layer is what do I do as a safety leader in safety? This is not going and doing a qualification. This is my personal skills and behaviors that I display in the organization. So what is my vision for safety? How do I share that? Am I credible? Am I a good role model? Do I admit my mistakes? Am I action orientated? Do I get things fixed and addressed? How do I communicate in safety? How do I collaborate with people, involve other people, or I'll do the risk assessment myself? How do I provide feedback and recognition? Do I praise more than I criticize, or the other way around? I'm pretty good at criticizing, not praising people. And how do I hold myself and other people accountable for whatever it is they need to do in safety? So if you think about these, if you do these things consistently and effectively, you have a massive impact on the culture within your organization, perhaps even within your team as well. Right. So just to wrap up, we typically focus on rules, procedures, and the pretty numbers. Compliance, it's okay. Getting ISO 45,000, all that's okay. But that's the lower end of the continuum. How do you go from compliance to commitment at every level in the organization, but particularly those people perhaps that are above you? Think about those sustaining systems. You know, when leaders design, enable, help people, remove barriers, etc., you go on a long way. Think about those things you spend a lot of time on. Low severity, all right? If it has SIF potential, you need to go after and make sure your senior leaders are involved in that process as well. Enforcement versus capability and culture, all right? Telling people off, that is a line supervisor job, all right? That's their job, to hold people accountable. Changing culture, that's what we see as our role. So less time in admin and police. I know your organisation might expect that from you, but spend more time on becoming a change agent. Nico, that's me. Sorry, I went over a bit.
No, you didn't. You are actually exactly on the dot, 11:50, so 10 minutes left for questions.
No problems.
I wanted to clarify. So our webinar today was about speaking how is it to work or to be part of the corporate membership, let's say, program of IIRSM. I found your presentation very interesting, and I got a lot of notes as well about that. But I wanted to ask you first, how is it working with IIRSM, and what are the benefits and challenges that you found over the years?
It's a very good point. So I think, and I'll go back. I'll tell you, as a partner, I mean, I'm being a bit selfish here. Yes, these days, Nico, I am in business development. So the opportunities as a corporate partner that we get, it extends our network of new people possibly that we can have conversation with about, you know, professional business relationships where everybody wins. All right. Now, I'll give you one example, Nico. One of the symposiums that we held, and it was in Dubai in about 20, got to get this right now, might have been 2019, I believe. An individual really enjoyed my presentation around serious injury and fatality prevention. He was the director for HSE for a massive food and beverage manufacturing company based in the Middle East. When we started, 4,500 people. They've now got 12,500 people. We're still in a relationship today from that initial connection. Now, for him, he learnt a lot around serious injury and fatality prevention. We implemented in their company. I'll give you some insights. Last year in 2025, they reduced their motor vehicle incidents by 90%. It's the first year ever, and I know this sounds horrible, right? It's the first year ever they've never had a fatality in their business. So from that connection at that symposium, we were out to educate him, and there was other stuff around leadership that we did. But the impact to their organisation personally has been profound. So yes, I think to answer your question, I know it sounds selfish. We happened to bump into him. We educated him around something. We implemented approaches into their organisation, focusing on serious injury and fatality prevention. So it's a win-win situation. You know, again, many of the people that used to pitch up to those meetings in the Middle East, some of the people in some of these other webinars in like Ireland and stuff like this, we educate people. All right. At the end of the day, if some of your members in IIRSM say that resonates with me, can we have a discussion around how we could possibly do something like that in our business? Happy days.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, let me put the cherry on the dessert. So you're saying that thanks to your IIRSM partnership, you were able to contact this high person in the company, right? Which is that's the type of stuff. Sorry, I know it sounds,
but it's like a pyramid scheme, right? And I'll tell you, you know, the way.
Oh, don't say that.
No, it is. It's like I'll give you this same individual, right? He's actually a Greek native. He was speaking then at a health and safety event in Athens here 4 months ago. And this guy comes over and he said, I really like your speech and your journey and all this. Mm-hmm. And this guy's in the pharmaceutical business. He said, how did you do it? And he goes, well, there's this company called DECRA and there's this guy called Daryl. Why don't you have a chat with him? This guy has nothing to do with IIRSM. So I think we're a big educator. We do a lot of research and development. We've got a resources hub, whether it's culture, whether it's leadership, whether it's behavior, whatever you want, go in there. It's all free of charge. If you want to have a chat, fine. But I think that's another benefit that, yes, some of the tools, some of the approaches have proprietary, but a lot of our material does not.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Darren, can I turn to you, please? And can you tell me a bit more about what companies are currently IIRSM members? Do we have any big names amongst us? Do we have big employers? Tell me.
Yeah, thanks very much, Daryl, for your presentation, and Nico as well for hosting today. I really appreciate it as a volunteer that you're taking your time out. Yeah, we do. We have BAE, we have Marsh, the big global advisory firm. We have Amazon. We have TUI, the holiday company. So we have some big names, but hopefully it came across. We try and tailor our corporate partnership for whether the company has one individual, might be a consultant, 5 individuals, 500. We try and work with them, and sometimes it doesn't work. We can't work with everybody. We're small, we're growing, but we like to tailor. And sometimes it might be that the training is really important to a company. Okay, let's concentrate on that. But we love members like DECRA, Daryl, who get involved and come along to our events and add value and knowledge. And that's all was about sharing knowledge and getting involved in the community. But we certainly have got some great names, and you're obviously working with others potentially. But hopefully, again, it came across. We are an educational charity. We're not a media organisation. We're not driven by profit. We like, as Daryl said, we like to make a bit of money, same as DECRA, just to put it back into our resources. And we've been able to launch a new mentorship program, which is very important to us, and also a new LMS system for training programs. So
what is LMS? Sorry.
That's the learning management platform, which will
right.
be on our website, where you can go on, and it just makes it a lot more accessible internationally for people. And
Right.
that's actually launching next month. So yeah, there.
Thanks. Daryl, speaking about the role of the safety professional, what do you think the IIRSM membership takes a safety professional to reposition themselves as true business partners? Did I say that right? Did it came out right?
Yeah, I think so. So if I can just come back here, Nico, let me know. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
It's back to here. I think if the risk and safety professional can understand, I know there's some other models out there as well, but number one, if you can understand that there's multiple facets, this is where the risk and safety professional has to be very well connected with the top, but also people like your HR, the learning and development teams, and get that all the way. You look at individually, you go back to things like the position description. What in my position description must I do to be successful in this business? And what am I held accountable for? And what am I rewarded and recognized for? But similarly, if you understand where you are around these transformations, there's fellow IIRSM people, there's full members, but how do you sit with these, technically fantastic. But when you come to your leadership styles, particularly if you're more senior safety professionals, if I'm sitting down as somebody that works, within your company, do I see you do you inspire me or not? How do you influence people for the better? If people are like, oh, Daryl's out in the plant, let's all disappear. You're not inspiring him, and you're influencing him in the wrong way. All right?
Policeman, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Get away from that thing. Why do people become a professional? It's back to what I'm saying before, Nico. I've been there. I know what it's like. You have to police because the company expects that, and possibly your frontline supervisors are not doing it or don't want to do it. Now, frontline supervisors, I'm really sorry. That is part of your role. Your role is to hold your people accountable for whatever it is they have to do. That's your role. So down here, accountability. Are you holding your frontline leaders accountable? Are you holding their managers accountable at the front line? That's our job, is to move away from that policeman. We should be policing frontline supervisors and saying, your people are not doing what we expect of them. That's your role. But your approach around soft skills, how do you provide, this one here, feedback and recognition. As a safety professional, if you want to bring people closer to us, praise more than you criticize. If you're always criticizing people, people are not going to want to, they're not going to like you, and B, they probably don't want to spend time with you. So when you open your mouth, encourage, give lots of success feedback. Where you see people working at risk, get the frontline supervisor involved and say, this is an approach that is going to be sustainable in the long run, which is probably understanding why. Why didn't you lock it out? Why aren't you wearing your glasses? That's questions, and how you ask questions sometimes is the best part of our role. And when you get really good at asking open questions and understanding why people are, perhaps working at risk or having problems, and the action planning behind that makes us very, very effective people, and will get us closer to being a change agent in the business.
All right. Thank you for that. We're out of time, sadly enough. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And until the next webinar, 8th of July. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Darren. Thank you,
You're
Julie.
very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Till the next one.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much, everyone.
Ta-da. Bye.